And now the energy of this room should take you to a very calm, peaceful, tranquil place. And now you're prepared to listen to more Dharma talk. Okay, please look at the screen up there. So the key is we're talking about prosperity, right? So where do we live? Canada, the land of prosperity. We can explore prosperity from another perspective. I call it the 4 quotients. When we were kids, we've heard IQ. How many of you have taken the IQ test? Okay, so I break up the mind and body into 4 quotients. As you can see, physical quotients, PQ, IQ, intellectual or intelligence quotients, EQ, emotional quotients, and then most importantly for Buddhism, for a spiritual practitioner, would be the spiritual quotients. We have heard a lot about the EQ, having good EQ for the past 10 years, but we can't stop there. We have to explore what is SQ. However, in order to speak about SQ, you have to talk about the other 3 in relation to prosperity. Because the prosperity that we're going to focus on is inner prosperity, inner peace, inner happiness. So, what does PQ has to do with our inner happiness? Are we happy when we are sick? No. Hard to be happy or peaceful when you're not feeling well. So a good PQ is important. Now, how do we maintain a good PQ? Okay, we have to eat. How do we eat? Eat a lot. No. We have to starve ourselves. No. So what's the terminology for not too much and not too little? Moderation. In Buddhism, we call it the middle way. The way of the middle. Just right. Not too much, not too little. Just right. And that is the point of equilibrium, balance, moderation. Our body functions in optimal state when you find that right point of existence, in that physically you are eating just enough. Not too much, not too little. But usually we overeat. Do you know why? We eat too fast. We don't even allow the saliva to generate. Saliva generates for a reason. When we just gobble, 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 like Pac-Man, well, I don't know about you guys. Some are too young to know about Pac-Man here. Yeah. But I know about when you just gobble, gobble, by the time you feel full, you are not at 100%. You are at 105 or 10. So you have to chew. You have to eat mindfully. You have to count how many times you chew. What is the recommended time you chew per bite? Food. How many do you know? 10? 20? 30? I'll tell you what an old master told me. 108 times each bite. He's counting. And you know what? I've tried it. It was grueling at the beginning. But I noticed I eat less. Because I chew more, I eat less. How could that be? Because you allow saliva to generate, and you slow down the process, so you're not eating with your eyes. You're actually eating. You know what it means to eat with your eyes? You see something delicious and you just gobble, 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 and you just keep putting it in. But your body already, you already exceeded what it needs. Yeah. So, the way of the middle way is very important when you eat. What else do we do every day? We sleep. So, how much should we sleep? Too much? Dizzy, dizzy. Not enough? Cranky, cranky. So you have to, and then everyone is different. The middle way is not like there is a time for everybody. No. Everyone has to find their own middle way. That point of equilibrium, whether it's eating, whether it's sleeping, walking, everything. And you need to understand that the middle way is an art. The middle way is the way to inner prosperity and inner wellness. Okay, so what's next? Intelligence, quotients, IQ. IQ pertains to receiving knowledge, getting knowledge, understanding things, the concepts, ideas. But what happens when we are always reading and just learning, but we are not putting into practice? Then words will never be yours. Words will just be spoken or written, but not lived. So, if you are quietly reading, you always need time to digest the words, ponder the words, think about the words. It's always that balance between the stillness and mobility in order to digest and live the words, understand the words, and become the words. EQ. What is the middle way of EQ? EQ pertains to interpersonal relationships. Okay, let's do a survey. How many of you are totally satisfied with all your interpersonal relationships? Don't raise your hands, just think about it. With mom and dad, with sons and daughters, with friends, with good friends, with co-workers, with people you meet every day, people, neutral people, or with the enemies, which supposedly a spiritual practitioner should never have, but hey, it happens. But if I ask you, how many of you would like to improve your interpersonal relationships? Raise your hands. Because there is always room for improvement. Now, to improve it, you need to understand, again, what is the middle way of human relationships? Where is that point of equilibrium between you and your mom, you and your dad, you and your siblings, you and your friends, your spouses? Where is that point of equilibrium? balance. That point, according to the Buddha, it is understanding what loving kindness is. A love that is kind, but not sticky. Loving kindness is not a sticky love. What's a sticky love? I love you to death. There's no space. There's no breathing room. The asphyxiating love. I cannot live without you. Very scary phrase, if you really think about it. When someone cannot live without you, you need to think very carefully what you are getting into. So, middle way is understanding, first of all, your karmic relationship with that person. Because in every relationship, there is a lesson to be learned. Definitely, there's a lesson to be learned in every relationship, be it good or bad. What do you learn from a good relationship? Learn to remain equanimous, calm. When it's too sticky, then you put some space, some buffer in it, so that it will stay fresh. When there's no space, and give it time, it will start to spoil, to change. Yeah. So, with friends, with everything, with everyone, is like that. Because essentially, if you think about it, this universe, what's a father? What's a mother? What's a friend? What does all the relationship mean? They are merely stickers that we put in, and then we give it a value, and we think that should be like that. Because you are my son, because you are my daughter, because you are my spouse, you have to accept me for who I am, unconditionally. Now, is it possible for us to accept someone else unconditionally? Love unconditionally. Is it possible? Oh yeah, it's possible. But what are the criteria? You have to have less greed, less hatred, and less ignorance. Otherwise, we are just egocentric individuals. The moment you say you demand someone else to love you unconditionally, you're already saying that, hey, this is the way I am. I'm not going to change. Just live with it. So I don't change. Everyone else has to change. Which means the universe revolves around whom? Oneself. Would that work? Imagine everyone doing that. And that's what we call individualism. Yeah. So finding that middle way of interpersonal relationship is understanding. First, okay, my connection with this person, is it good or is it bad? Good or bad in the sense that, does it bring me suffering or brings me calmness and happiness or fulfillment? If it brings you suffering, in most cases, then you need to understand, okay, what do I need to change? How do I make the other person understand that we need to have more respect? Where do we draw that line of moderation? And if it's a good relationship, bad relationship, you have to find that space, and then you cannot just always be fighting, because through fighting, you're not going to find an answer. So what about good relationships? You have to find out, ooh, things are good, but how do we maintain this? We need to find a balance, the right balance. So the middle way, even in EQ, interpersonal relationship, is very important. Now, I could give you many examples, but I don't want to take too much time away from our practice later. Okay. So what? And then just as an announcement, I have 2 lectures coming up in November that deal with auto-analysis, something even more in-depth what a psychologist can give you from a Buddhist perspective, Buddhist psychology on auto-analysis, on these 4 quotients. Now let me cover the last one, spiritual quotient. By spiritual, it doesn't mean religiosity. We're not talking about being religious. We're talking about your connection with what is good, what is wholesome. Because we can be all from different religion or no religion, yet we can all have spirituality. Or we can be very involved religiously, fanatically, yet we are in no way spiritually connected. Because we think we are right and everyone else is wrong, and we don't care about other people's feelings. We don't care about what happens to other people. It cannot be like that. Spiritual quotient means that someone cares. Someone develops the compassion to care for someone else. At the same time, one can handle all the mental traffic, the greed, the hatred, and ignorance, and reduce that, purify oneself with time, and not allow the egocentric self to fester and then allow the greed, hatred, and ignorance affect someone else. Spiritual quotient is about purification. Purification of the mind and body. And that is what we call the middle way, is the way to enlightenment. That's what it is. Now, I'm not using any Buddhist terms here today. I'm just speaking to you in normal English without any terminology. But I can assure you, everything I talk about, you can find it in Buddhist text. Because Buddhism, as far as I know, it is a religion, but it's more a way of living. How do you live your life? How do you treat others? A spiritual being, a spiritual practitioner, cares about the world. Now, we picked a very interesting subject, prosperity, to talk about here in Canada. You know, and then the first reaction someone might have is, yeah, I live in the land of prosperity. What do I need to know about prosperity? Well, what did the Spider-Man's uncle say to him? With great powers comes great responsibilities. Yeah, I don't know the names, you know. So I'm just saying, huh? Uncle Ben, yes. Uncle Ben said to something Parker, I can't remember his name either. Peter Parker. With great power comes great responsibility. We live in Canada, and not just anywhere in Canada. We live in Vancouver. This is not Toronto, if you know what I mean. This is Vancouver. Temperature, people, ethnicity, cultural, everything. We practically live on pure land on earth. I call Vancouver. We have responsibility. We need to think. Well, we're enjoying all these things, and according to what Venerable Shosa already explained to us, we have what we have. We are enjoying everything we have because of what? Our past good deeds in past lives. So what if we just enjoy it and you just think, oh, okay, this is meant to be, and then you don't do anything else? Then you are never guaranteed in the next one. Because you can use up the bank account faster than you can accumulate it. So that's why we're here talking about prosperity. Inner prosperity is about developing loving kindness towards others, wishing that other people enjoy the minimal, basic necessity, fulfilling the minimum, at least. And then here, living in this pure land on earth, we should always be mindful that there are sufferings in the world. And we should be very, very responsible with our resources. How so? I don't know if you have memory of this, but then let me just take a guess, or just ask. How are we born into this world? How many of you was born with the gold chain on your neck? With a silver earring? With a stack of cash as soon as you're born? Nobody. We're born naked into this world. Right? No arguments there, right? No, I just want to make sure. Now, how do we leave this world? With your bank account? With your car? Your house? No, we take nothing with us. Now, according to Buddhism, the only thing you take with you is your own karma. You're the heir to all your actions. And these actions will result in consequences, retributions in the future. So that's why we, as spiritual beings, we should take care of our bodily actions, our verbal actions, and our mental actions. Every action is a karma. And karma altogether determines where you go and what happens to you. Now, that process of purification is what we are really interested in. So how do we find that middle way in everything? Today, we introduce the practice of Om Mani Padme Hum. We recite this mantra in order to connect to two ideas. Well, in fact, it's just one in two. We want to connect with compassion and wisdom. Okay? And then compassion and wisdom. There's no word in English for compassion and wisdom, so I actually invented a word. Compasdom. We have to develop compasdom. We have to recite the mantra, reminding ourselves that we need to be compassionate towards others, and we have to develop wisdom to see ourselves, understand ourselves, so that we refrain from causing harm to others or allowing others to cause harm to us. That is also wisdom. In this spiritual practice, it is very important to find a purpose in life. How many of you found your purpose in life? Please raise your hand. You kind of found, kind of. Or you're looking, you're searching. I can assure you there's one particular idea that is across all religions. The greatest responsibility of any human being is to find a way of benefiting others, giving back to community, society, the world. We are blessed to be Canadians, and we are blessed that as Canadians, we kind of know what it means to be a global citizen. And we have to implement, put that into action. Sure, we have lots of water, right? But how should we use water? Has any of you traveled to a remote area where there's lack of water? I've been to Chaco, Paraguay, where it just rains only 1 month in a year. And I see how they use water. They wash vegetable, but then always like with a recipient to collect the water after you wash the vegetables, and you can use it in the toilet or somewhere else. They are very, very responsible with their resources. So we, as Canadians, we have cheap electricity, relatively speaking, water, resources. We should try to be frugal. Because remember, it's not just because comes from your own hard-earned money, you can just do whatever you want. If we came to this world bringing nothing, and we are going to go away taking nothing, we are merely guardians of resources in this world. Just guardian. So those of us who have more, we should try to take care of those who have less. We should have that in our mind. And everyone should explore the way they want to do it. But that should be a purpose, because that's part of a spiritual quotient of a spiritual being. Learn to use resources sparingly, responsibly, and helping others, alleviating suffering of others. Now, the karma, the actions that specifically leads to prosperity, especially economic prosperity of oneself, are 3 types of actions. Number 1, do not steal. Even if it's something insignificant, don't take it. Even if no one sees it, don't take it. Because it's not about someone seeing or not seeing you take something. It is about you thinking you got away with something. Do not steal. Number 2, second karma, be generous with others. Number 3, do not be stingy with others. These 3 actions. If one develops these 3, do not steal, be generous and give, and do not be stingy with others, these 3 as a habit, then lifetime after lifetime, you will never have less. You will always have enough to live by. For the past 10 years, I've been traveling to Brazil, Argentina, and Paraguay in South America. And then for the past 10 years, all those countries talk about coming out of poverty because the income disparity is large. And with all the aids and everything, the help, you see people still struggling. And I noticed one thing that it's in common in South America. I can't say too much about Vancouver because I haven't looked at the stats here. But I noticed that nowadays people move from one type of poverty into another type. If you live in a rural area and then you say, and you're poor, then and if people say, I want to get out of poverty, and they move into city, they get education, and they go into city. They get an apartment, they pay rent, and maybe they have a car or they don't, but they move into another kind of living, but with more or less stress compared to before. More stress. Happier or less happy. Thinking that's happier because I moved out of poverty, but in fact moving into another kind of poverty. Emotional, spiritual poverty. Yeah. So that's what today I want you to think about how to find the middle way of your physical quotient, intellectual quotient, emotional quotient, and spiritual quotients. And understand that middle way is the right way towards enlightenment. And that's the way to prosperity, whether material or spiritual prosperity.